Chapter 151, Paying the Money Back. Although Xiao Dingfei didn't know how she dared to say that such a large sum of money was a simple matter, she didn't ask much at all. Got the entrustment, and went to the palace to be busy that night, completely to see the excitement and not a big deal. Zhang Xuning returned to Yang's Hizai and began to think about money. The solution she had come up with was actually very simple, and there was no second way at the moment. And in the previous life, Yu Fangyan called her behavior cutting leaks. It's just that if you want to cut leaks, you must first have a sum of money in your hand to use. During this period of time, although Xiao Dingfei has filial piety a lot of things, many of them are treasures given by the emperor, and it is not easy to exchange them for money. Zhang Xuning was thinking about it, and she remembered Xie Wei. So, in the next few days, the famous Mr. Xie found that his naughty student, who didn't know what medicine he had taken wrongly, suddenly became docile and well-behaved in front of him, and even had a dog-legged flattery. When he was in school in the temple, his eyes were wide open, and he was always looking at him. After going to the side hall to learn the piano and chess, he uncharacteristically shushed him and asked for warmth, poured tea from time to time, and handed a pen. Even if I occasionally bumped into him elsewhere in the palace, he was respectful, and there was no impatience and reluctance in the past. When things go wrong, there must be demons. What kind of temperament she has, Xie Wei has already figured it out, and he has long seen that she is courteous, either a traitor or a thief, but he will not debunk it, and he is happy to enjoy the service of this originally rude student, just to see how long her filial piety appearance can be pretended. Finally, in the blink of an eye, it was almost time to leave the palace and rest. Zhang Xuning went to the side hall early this day to wait, carefully brewed a pot of good tea from Shanzai's palace, and played the piano music that Xie Wei was going to take the school exam in advance. When Xie Wei came, she first served good tea, and then played the piano music skillfully. Xie Wei was rarely idle, drinking tea and listening to it, but from time to time he looked at Zhang Xuning's expression, and found that after her piano stopped, she looked up and quietly looked at herself, and she was in her heart. Sure enough, the little liar then opened his mouth. Sir, seeing that the students have grown up these days, they can be regarded as reforming their ways, right? Xie Wei deliberately said blandly, that's it. Zhang Xuning. She held her breath, thinking of the tens of thousands of silver she had saved in the other party. She resisted the urge to turn her face, and the smile on her face not only did not fade, but became more sincere, and said, Mr. is teaching me with all his heart. In the past, students did not know what to do, and I didn't know that Mr. was strict for my good. The student already knows what is wrong. The rhetoric is really a set. Xie Wei's gaze swirled around her face. Standing in good manners, looking at the etiquette and righteousness, it seems to be a gentle and virtuous lady. But let's see, a pair of eyes are turning restlessly, with a bit of seductive agility, but it is not a change the evil and return to the right look. He smirked, something to ask me. Zhang Xuning knew that this person was not easy to deal with, but she didn't expect the other party to ask directly, so she suddenly sneered, sure enough, I can't hide it from Mr. I know exactly what I am thinking. In fact, there is no big deal, that is, Her Royal Highness the eldest princess is going to kiss recently. She treats the students very well, and the students want to pick some precious things to give her, but there is not much money left in her hand, and she is stretched. The student still has some money to keep with his husband. I don't know if I can. It. Xie Wei's eyes gradually deepened as he watched her. Zhang Xuning was looked at by him like this, and her voice became smaller and smaller, only to feel that the courage to ask for money at the beginning flew out of the clouds, and cold sweat broke out on the back of her head. At this moment, she was even thinking about giving up. Going back and counting his belongings, or selling the things that Xiao Dingfei sent, he can almost make up a sum of money. Unexpectedly, after Xiaowei looked at her for a long time, he actually said, "Come to my house tomorrow to get it." Zhang Xuning almost suspected that her ears were broken, and her eyes widened and she looked at Xiaowei in disbelief. Xiaowei looked at her stunned appearance, and only felt funny. "Don't wait for noon." Zhang Xuning immediately nodded like pounding garlic. She poured ecstasy soup into it, and said one good thing after another, "Thank you, sir." As the saying goes, one day is a teacher, and one life is a father. The previous words were okay, Xiaowei only listened to them as a deaf ear. But when a teacher for one day and a father for life came out, his face froze, and he listened to Zhang Xuning's small mouth and talk endlessly, and finally felt that her face was a little unsightly. Zhang Xuning is still saying good things about him. In the future, students must study harder, so as to honor you well in the future. Suppressing the urge to splash the tea in her hand, Xiaowei smiled slightly. "You can get out." Zhang Xuning. The fake saint is still moody in front of him and behind his back. Zhang Xuning didn't feel that there was anything wrong with her previous words, so she restrained the little unpleasantness and bowed and said goodbye. In the afternoon, he went out of the palace to rest. Early the next morning, she went to find Xiaowei. "I thought there might be a little obstacle, but I never thought that the other party would give it very happily," which always made her feel a little confused. It was only when she walked out of Xia's mansion with the silver ticket that she remembered, this was originally her own money. Xiaowei withheld it before, but now that she is obedient, she should give it to her as soon as possible. So even that little doubt was simply put aside. Zhang Xuning took the money and secretly went to Xiao Dingfei to plan the next thing. In the Qin Hall, Xiaowei stared at the piece of wood that Lu Xian had just sent, thought for a long time, and finally laughed, and instructed Jianshu. "Ning Er took the money, he will not be honest, secretly find someone to keep an eye on her, and see what she does. The little liar doesn't know who to deceive."